Hello and welcome to Off the Shelf Reviews.
I'm Iain.
And I'm Gary. And today we're going to talk about a John Carpenter movie which came out in 1983, adapted by the novel from Stephen King, Christine. Iain, why don't you give us the synopsis?
Well, the story follows Arie Cunningham, who is a bit of a nerd, a bit of a weedy guy in high school, and he comes across the wrecked, rusted body of a red and white 1958 Plymouth Belvedere. He sets about restoring this car, but starts to go through a change that his friends and family start to notice. They actually believe it's the car that's controlling him.
This film came out at a time where both John Carpenter and Stephen King were sort of at the height of their careers. They were very well known, so much so that this film even went into production before the book was even published. I always considered this film as sort of like the male opposite of Carrie.
Yeah.
Where it sort of deals with a nerdish, sort of troubled adolescent girl.
Yeah.
Whereas this movie deals with the same sort of material, but with a dorky guy, Arie. And his sort of fact that he gets bullied at school, the fact that his parents sort of dictate to him his entire life, the fact that even though his best friend is the jock, it's sort of that sort of same sort of relationships we see in most of Stephen King's sort of basic characters. But what's hiding underneath the surface of those characters is what always makes his books so interesting. And of course, coupling that with John Carpenter, which I wish the two of them had collaborated more. He just brings those characters out of the page in this film.
Last night, we were playing Scrabble, and it's like neck and neck between me and her. We blew my dad away early. Huh? So right at the end, I had this choice of putting down ratio for like 5 lousy points, or...
For what, Arie?
Fellatio. On a triple word score for 24 points in the game.
What'd she do?
She wouldn't let me have it. She won by 7 points because she said obscenity's not allowed in Scrabble.
Yeah.
And I looked it up, and it's in the dictionary.
You jerk, Arie.
I fucking love this movie. I mean, if you've seen our top 5 John Carpenter movies, you know how much of a fan I am of just John Carpenter. He's fucking awesome.
Christine's not on that list.
I know, but it's just she's
it's
evil.
On my list.
She's evil. This car. I don't want to jump in too quickly to talk about the car. The like you said, the collaboration between Stephen King and John Carpenter really just comes together in this film. Having those shots of the street with like the date and timestamp coming up really reminds me of Halloween. So I'm immediately again invested into the film. Having it on top of that, adapted from a Stephen King story, bit of a Stephen King fan, I'm already scared as well. And then you see the car.
That car is beautiful. I have to say, that is my dream car.
Yeah.
Just that colour paint, just the design of it. I mean, I'm not into car porn. I don't like the Fast and Furious movies. I can appreciate, I guess, the aesthetics of a car.
Yeah.
But I'd never see a car and just go, whoa, except for this Plymouth Fury. It's not just the fact that this car has a history. It is just purely visual. Just the interior, exterior. It's magnificent to look at.
Yeah.
And the fact that only so many of them were ever put into production is just a crying shame.
Weren't most of them used for this film?
I think the last remaining cars were all destroyed in the making of this film, as you will see.
I mean, we do have like 20 versions of this Belvedere used to obviously visualize Christine in all of her glory, but
we have that one red one in the production line.
Yeah, but to start off, I mean, Keith Gordon playing Arie, like we said, he's a weedy guy. When he first takes that look at her, you can tell there's a spell that she's put on him. He is just so happy. He doesn't care that the doors are falling off and there's rust everywhere. And then he's talking to, I think his name is it George?
That's it.
The old man. His presence as well, you can just tell he just wants rid of it. He just doesn't want to look at this thing anymore. And you're like, well, what happened? Well, my brother killed himself in it. It's like,
Hey, look, mister, would you give Arie a break, huh? He's just a stupid kid. He doesn't know what he's doing.
You don't know half as much as you think you do. Shitter.
See, there's a lot of things that this movie has adapted from the book very well. Now, it was at this point in the movie where there's certain things that the movie has omitted.
Yeah.
And it works for the pacing of the movie. But in the book, the ghosts or the presence of whoever died in the car is still visible inside the car to certain characters, and their corpses sort of decay over time as they're in the car. And it's quite disgusting imagery, and it's typical of King to evoke that sort of stuff. I mean, he's the master of horror for a reason.
Yeah, yeah.
Asshole brother brought her back in September '57. That's when you got your new model year in September. Brand new she was. She had the smell of a brand new car. That's just about the finest smell in the world. Except maybe for pussy.
There's a lot of other things that the movie omits from the book. I'd say that the book has a much darker tone. It also goes into a lot more about Arnie's sort of transformation.
Yeah.
Because that's what happens in the story, is that once he buys that car, he does sort of lose his sheepishness.
Yeah.
He starts to answer back. He starts to get more vulgar. He openly swears in front of people. And his relationships start to deteriorate quite quickly as a result of it. It's coupled, of course, with all of the, on the surface, typical sort of teenage angst material about having the first car or just having, you know, those first experiences as a teenager. But of course, with this, it's coupled much more sinisterly in the book, where you know what Christine is sort of about and doing. Whereas the movie seems just a little bit more playful with its matter. Because when you're making a movie about essentially a haunted car, it's quite silly.
She is not haunted. She is the devil car.
Well, I mean, I've never seen a car have teeth before, except maybe for Herbie.
yeah. But I mean, like we said, from that opening scene of seeing Christine there in that red, I immediately just think, that thing's got devil's blood into it. You know, it thinks about its motions and attacks anybody who comes near it. The first guy who puts his hand on the bonnet, the lid comes down and almost takes his hand off. You have a black guy who drops cigar ash onto her chair, and 2 seconds later he's found dead, you know, by one of his workmates. And like I said, with the whole Arnie aspect as well, I feel like I've not read the book. She communicates with him. She kind of, you know, in a weird way, psychically tells him that she loves him, like, you know, through the radio, and obviously.
Well, that's the big thing, is that in the book, each chapter is headed by the song lyric or the song title.
Yeah.
And for me, I always saw Christine communicating with Arnie throughout the movie by playing specific songs and speaking to him through the lyrics. But it doesn't just speak to Arnie that way, it speaks to everyone that way. Yeah. Especially when Dennis tries to break into Darnell's and then he's on the door, and then Christine plays. And actually, for me, when I first became aware of that, I just sort of got a little bit more invested into the story and into sort of the relationship they were having, because people have sentimental affections for their cars or for their houses or for any inanimate object. And so it's sort of really well portrayed here, because this car is communicating to him, but just so subtly.
Yeah.
Other characters are aware, and his girlfriend, Leah, says, you know, why does it keep playing those old horrible songs? I think she's jealous.
I love that bit where they're sat in the drive-in, and he's like, and Arnie's just like, why does everybody hate my car? And I'm like, yeah, why does everybody hate his car? He's happy, he's rebuilt it. Oh yeah, that's right, the car's evil. I forgot.
But you see, from everyone else's perspective in the film, it is just a surface level. They're not really aware of the malevolence within the car.
Yeah.
They're just seeing what the impact of that car is having on Arnie and how much he's changed for the worse.
Yeah.
You know, initially for the better, because he's got his confidence and he can handle himself, but so much so that he just becomes an arrogant douchebag. I mean, the way he ends up going from playing Scrabble with his parents to being given a yogurt lunch from his mother and dropping the rubbish everywhere, to the scene where he's just like, fuck you, slapping his dad across the face, like, and then walking off. It's like, that transformation happens so well and so subtly. And I have to say that Keith Gordon, as an actor, does a fantastic job in this. We'd only ever really seen him in Jaws 2 as another sort of nerdy guy. But in this film, he has a complete character transformation which happens so well throughout the film. And I always think it's a shame that his sort of acting career ends there and he went on to become a director.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose his pinnacle performance would have been as Arnie. And like you said, it does work. He stumbles out of his house as this little nerdy guy with his jock friend. And then when spoilers, when Dennis is injured on the football field and can never play football anymore, you do get this strong arrogance coming from Arnie, where the fact that he's in the hospital room and he's just looking at him like, look at you, you know, I've got a nice car now, I've got a good girlfriend, and you're just in bed. And I'm thinking, oh, come on, Arnie, this is your friend, that's Christine talking through you. But then I don't want Christine to hear that, just in case she fucking chases me down the street and kills me.
Is this interesting coming from this film from a John Carpenter perspective of movies? Because I don't think there's any actors from any of the John Carpenter movies that appear in this one.
Well, Harry Dean Stanton had already been in Escape from New York, and obviously he reprises a role as the police officer investigating Arnie in this one. I mean, I get a strong Jamie Lee Curtis feel from Alexandra Paul.
Yeah.
But when she turns up in the school and
she's the new girl,
and Dennis is, you know, starts to kind of fall for her, but she kind of starts to go out with Arnie instead. She does have this strong Jamie Lee Curtis presence about her, and her acting's not brilliant in this, but from the aspect that she's playing a teen in surrounded on a story based on teens, you just go with that. You know, you just like. You're part of the meat for the killing thing that's going to be chasing you around.
Indeed. I always cringe at high school scenes in horror movies, especially horror teen movies that are set in high schools. They're difficult to get through. But John Carpenter handles the high school scenes quite well.
Yeah.
He handles the bullies, and especially in the workshop scene where Buddy Repperton has got the lunch, and the whole fight scene, it's very slick and very well put together. It's done in just like 4 or 5 quick close-up cuts.
Yeah.
And the whole fight is over.
Just put it down.
Get him, man.
But the rest of the high school, you have the library scene, you have the locker scene, you have typical scenes which it kind of reminds me of Halloween again.
Yeah.
It's it just sets up the characters in the environment that these characters exist in, but it doesn't dwell there or spend any extensive time there. The rest of the sets in the movie are also fantastic, and I think Darnell's garage just is exactly how I imagined it in the book as well. And the character of Darnell, who you might remember as Dracula from Gremlins 2. Originally, he didn't have too big a part in Christine, when the actor kind of asked for some extra scenes to be put in, and the scene where he's asking Arnie just to do a few jobs around is actually line from line of dialogue from the book, which I thought was excellent because it just grounded that character.
Pick up around the place. Do a few loops. Put the toilet paper on the little spools. Shit like that. Do that, and you can raid my junk pile for whatever you want. I might even throw in a few bucks.
Yeah.
The biggest disappointment I have with the Christine movie is the fact that it really is, in essence, a PG movie. There is no blood and guts and gore in this film.
Yeah.
For instance, there's a spoiler here, but the death of Darnell in the movie is really quite restrained in terms, especially in terms of its budget, where he gets in the car, and I always question why. I mean, the car is a burnt out wreck. He's already realised, psychologically or mentally, that the car is driven back itself, because when he opens the door, it's fucking empty, and then he decides to sit in it, this burnt out wreck, and then of course Christine crushes him.
Yeah.
And I was just like,
it's kind of
in the book, it's much more interesting where Christine actually follows Darnell home. Darnell is in his house, and Christine flies through the windows and lands in his living room.
Sweet.
Darnell is rushing up the stairs to get away from it, and Christine starts doing donuts, taking down the stairs and causing him to hit the ground. And Christine continues to do donuts over his body before flying back out the window. I was just like, reading that in the book, you're like, you ain't fucking safe anywhere from this car. But in the movie, the car just kind of waits for you to sit inside it. It's like a fly trap.
Well, I mean, obviously, budget restraints,
indeed.
For that, and obviously the time and setting. I rewatching this film for the review. They have to remake this film. They shouldn't remake it shot for shot like John Carpenter's. They should like what they do with the Carrie series. Every 5 or 10 years they release a new Carrie movie. We know how it's going to fucking end, so stop making them. But with Christine, the special effects could get better and better. I mean, let's talk about the special effects. Christine starts off as a rusted wreck, and Arnie takes his time to build her back up. But the bullies find out where she's parked, and they decide to go and smash her up. And it's this really cringy scene where they're ripping through the seats and they're smashing the windows. And Christine kind of just sits there and takes it. She can't do anything. She doesn't want to do anything. One of them even defecates on the dashboard, as he says. And Arnie comes back, he finds the car, he calls the police, and then he starts to rebuild her again because obviously he's infatuated by her. And it's the scene where obviously he stands in front of the lights, and the effects for her rebuilding, for its time, are better than the fucking Transformer movies, I think.
Well, they used a particular material of plastic which they painted to look like metal.
Yeah.
So, and obviously it was filled with hydraulics and pumps and things, and so they crushed up these shots, and then obviously reversed the footage.
Yeah.
And it still looks spectacular today. There's a few instances watching it now where it's sort of like almost look like stop motion, where it's been played back too fast.
Yeah.
But it still works.
Yeah.
And it really sets the mood at that point in the film as well. I really do like the special effects. Obviously they used a lot of cars in the film, so the sort of illusion of the magic is sort of broken when you know how many cars they destroyed making it.
But
it's that scene when Christine is chasing one of the guys away, and he's backed away into sort of a dead end alleyway. And Christine's there, and it's like, can't fit through here. And then it just decides to wreck itself to fly right towards him. I have another problem with that scene as well, is that it's, again, different from the book. I'll let you read the book on how the other characters die. But in the film, he could have just jumped over the bonnet of that car. I don't know why he just stood there and took it. But like I said, it was done with quick cuts. And again, like I was saying earlier, it's almost like a PG kill.
Yeah.
The only reason this film does have an 18 certificate or an R-rated certificate was because they went back into the script and added lots of the words fuck.
If it's yours, why doesn't it have your name on here anywhere? Arnie Cuntingham. Why doesn't it say Cuntingham?
Just take it, Arnie, and let's go eat.
The film got criticism for overusing of the word.
Yeah.
But again, it was something that King uses quite liberally in his books.
Yeah.
So.
You got to use swearing to obviously emphasize the way the characters are feeling. I love the way that Arnie, as he starts to obviously change, he uses the word shitters a lot more. Everybody's a shitter. Let's shit on the world. And using that word, you kind of realise that it is kind of Christine speaking through him now, because she hates all the shitters of the world and she's going to deal with them. The bully killing scenes, I think, are fucking awesome. That guy, the guy in the tiny little space, he could have jumped over, but the fact that she is sat there on the edge and then she's like, fuck this, and just drives forward. I always cringe whenever I see the sides of her just crumple.
Yeah.
But then I'm worried because obviously she's just going to pull back and it's just all going to rebuild.
See, what I like is at the beginning of that scene where, I mean, this is like the night after the Christine's been destroyed. and he's there, and he looks up and he can hear the music, and he's like, hey Cunningham, is that you? And he sees the car, and you can just see on his face, he's not the best actor, but you can see on his face, he's just like, we fucked that car up. Yeah. There is no way on earth he could have got that car looking like it's just come out of the production line again. And that fear is what just sets them all running. Even Buddy Repperton, who's just like, you know, a John Travolta lookalike. Yeah. Even he is just like, he drops his crowbar and just runs. And
it's the way those headlights just come on.
Yeah.
In the darkness. And it's like a pair of eyes. And obviously you can see the silhouette of her grille just looking at you, and you're just like, I know it's a car, but it's a fucking scary looking car.
Sounds like it's growling at you as well. Favorite scene from the movie, Ian?
I have quite a few. The bullies each being killed. I love the way that Christine fucking takes each one of them out, especially when she's set on fire and she's just driving down the road like a burning torch, ready to get Buddy. I love the scene where Dennis and Arnie are driving together on New Year's Eve. Like I said, I've read the book. I don't know if it's in the book or if it's extended, but just their conversation, you know, Dennis has gotten to this point that he's scared for his friend and he just wants his friend to stop, but Arnie's just like, I've got Christine now, I don't need anybody else. And you're like,
there is a lot more backstory about their characters in the book, which of course, I mean, the film, I mean, it's nearly 2 hours long as it is, but it really condenses their friendship together. And I think in just a few opening scenes where they're driving around together, you can really see that they're bonded. They grew up together as young kids and both became different people, which ordinarily wouldn't sort of bond with each other, but because of their history, it just makes that friendship more real.
Yeah, their friendship, just even just the small bits that we get through the film just works. I mean, starting off with Dennis being the jock, and then obviously him getting injured, and Arnie becoming the cool guy, and then, like I said, New Year's Eve, they just sat there like, what the fuck are we going to do tomorrow? I love the sequence straight after that, actually, where Dennis has carved the garage's name into the bonnet of Christine, and I'm like, she gonna fuck you up now, man.
I think my favourite scene in the movie, it's always the most memorable moment, especially coming after the scene where Christine has been devastated, destroyed and gutted.
Yeah.
Arnie's there, he's broken down, and he's just trying to fix just little things. I mean, his heart is broken, his soul has been destroyed, just like the car. And he's just like, it's okay, we'll fix you up. And he turns his back for a second, and you can hear Christine just making some noises. He turns around, and he just glances at the engine, and then steps into the spotlight, turns around, and says, okay.
Show me.
And watching that car put itself back together was just fantastic. It was at the point where Arnie, for me at that point, Arnie was already under the spell. He already knew that there was something more to the car than the car was letting him know. And it was at that point that it was just the audience, it solidified, with Arnie, it solidified what is happening and what the rest of the film is going to be about.
Yeah.
Interestingly, again, is another side from the book and the film, is you never know whether Arnie is behind the wheel of the car when the car is doing the killing. And in the movie, they hide that fact by having out these blacked out windows.
Yeah.
In the book, I'll let you discover that for yourself.
Come on, baby, please. It's all right. Everything is the same.
But one of the last things I want to really talk about this film is the soundtrack. This, for me, is actually my favourite John Carpenter score. Just from the music of just Christine just driving around, when it's the scene where Christine's chasing Buddy Repton and it just has that bass line that's just constant. It gets faster and faster and faster. And again, there might be sort of those synthetic, typical 80s noises, but for me, the score of this film is fantastic, and mixing that in with all of those oldies songs as well.
The 50s rock and roll.
The 50s rock and roll. The entire movie I could just listen to from start to finish with just the audio, with no dialogue, because it is fantastic.
I wonder why I love you like I do. Is it because I think you love me too? I wonder why I love you like I do, like I do.
I highly recommend Christine for all of those reasons.
I definitely recommend Christine. If you're a John Carpenter fan, you need to see it. If you're a Stephen King fan, you need to see it. It is a bit dated, but if you get caught up by that, don't fucking watch it. You know, Christine is a fucking classic. Like I said, I think they should remake it as well, mainly because you get that car, you make it look fucking sweet, you make it drive through buildings and run people over and fucking just clamp off hands. You do something, just take that nice red body and kill people with it.
No CGI.
Well, TTFN.
Yeah, ta-ta for now.
Thanks for watching Off the Shelf Reviews.
Bad to the bone. Bad to the bone. Bad. Bad.
God, I hate rock and roll.